thank you for speaking with us today. We're so excited to share a little bit more about Aviela with all of our viewers, and the story behind these beautiful products. It's centered on shea butter, but it was kind of born from a really personal experience for you while you were traveling in Ghana. So why don't you start by sharing a little bit about that with us?
Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited. So I'll tell you a bit about the story of how Aviela started. I think the journey really started around 16 years
Yeah,
ago. And so at that time, my daughter was about 2 years old and
yeah.
she wasn't walking. She was still crawling all over the place. And my GP here thought there was nothing wrong. It's fine. She would walk when she's
Yeah.
ready. But then we had to go to Ghana for holiday. And when we went, if you know African parents, I'm sorry, they're always suspicious of everything. So my mom was like, I think there's something wrong. You need to go and check her out. So I decided to go and see a pediatrician. When I went, he said to me, "Oh, yeah, I think your daughter needs surgery. There must be something wrong with her ankle." So
Oh,
he booked me to see a
yeah.
surgeon in a big hospital. So we went to see the surgeon. We actually got there quite early. We queued around 4 a.m. and finally
Wow.
met the surgeon around 11. And then he came in. I told him what my problem was, and he looked at my daughter's legs and ankle, and he said, "Do you know about shea butter?" And I'm thinking, what a stupid question. First of all, both my parents come from the northern part of Ghana. So I grew up with shea butter. I knew
Yeah.
about shea butter. But I have to be honest, I hated the bloody product. I hated the greasiness of it. I hated the
Yeah.
smell of it. I hated how hard it was. So I used it as a baby, but that was
Yeah.
it. And then that was the end of it. So I was quite surprised when he asked me that. I said, yeah, I know about shea butter. I come from the northern part of Ghana. And then he said, oh, great. Send your daughter home, massage her ankle, and then come back in 2 weeks, and then we'll decide whether we want to have surgery or not. And so I said to myself, I'm not going to do this stupid solution anyway. But uh, I went home and I told my mom about it. My mom said, oh, don't worry, I will do it. Now, bear in mind, it's my mom's solution for
Yeah.
everything. Headache, shea butter, nosebleed, shea butter, everything, shea butter. So when I said to her, I said, I'm not doing this. She said, oh, don't worry, I'll do it. I said, okay, fine. So she started doing it, massaging her ankle morning and evening. And then by the third day, we were all having breakfast in the dining area. And then my daughter crossed from the kitchen area to the dining room, gets up and start walking. Now you could imagine the screaming that was going, because
Yeah.
normally when a baby is trying to walk, they will stand up, sit back down, and then they
Yeah.
will walk a few. And no, she started walking as if she's been walking already.
Yeah.
So we were all surprised and we kept shouting. Anyway, my mom continued the process of massaging the ankle with shea butter. And then 2 weeks was up, we had to go and see the surgeon. So we went to see the surgeon, and my mom actually my daughter walked into the surgeon's office. And the surgeon was like, "Oh, that's it.
There
We
you
don't need
go.
any surgery."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean why we don't need any surgery?" And he said, "Yeah, she's sorted." I said, "How can shea butter sort this?" And
Yeah.
then he explained to me that shea butter has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. And it looks like my daughter had a swollen ankle. And anytime she tries to get up to walk, she would sit right back down because she was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And as a baby, she can't express herself. She
Mhm.
can't tell us what's going on. So she just sat back right down, and then that
Yeah.
was it. So I was so shocked because I've known these ingredients all my life. I got home that evening. I called all my aunties in the village. I said, I want to know everything about shea butter. Then, fortunately for me, one of my aunties was a secretary to a dean to the university in the northern part of Ghana. And they were beginning to learn about shea butter because it was a thing that was now coming out. So they had a lot of materials. And so she sent me all those materials and I started reading about it. And I realized it had a lot of skin benefit properties. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do something with this when I get back. And then when I got back, I started my research work, and then I started the whole Aviela journey.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't that?
Exactly.
Surgery or shea butter. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Kind of thing too, where you think, oh, well, now I have to admit that my mother was right.
exactly. She doesn't know that I always tell people this story.
uh, That's wonderful, though. Now, okay, so your products use specifically unrefined shea butter. Can you tell us why that's so important? Because for someone who's not familiar with kind of everything about shea butter, what does the refining process change about the natural ingredient, and why is it so beneficial to use the pure unrefined shea butter instead?
Okay, right. So first of all, unrefined shea butter is made up of three key components. It has a lot of nutrients and vitamins in it, but the three key components in unrefined shea butter is fatty acids, vitamin A, and vitamin E. Now, depending on which region it comes from, it can vary in percentages. Um, However, because most people, because shea butter, when you make the shea butter, if it's not processed rightly, it can be very hard to
Yeah,
use. It can be greasy, and the smell can be very off-putting. So a lot of people don't like using the raw shea butter. And it's the same problem that we have with people who do cosmetic formulation. So they have the same problem. They don't like the color of it because it can be yellow if they add certain ingredients to it. The smell again can be, it can mess with their formulation.
yeah,
And then of course, they don't also like the hardness of it. How are they going to use it in their formulation? So what they tend to do is that they tend to refine it, and by refining it, they either pass it through a chemical process or they use a petrochemical ingredients to just to try and get rid of the smell of it or to try and change the color of it.
yeah,
And really, if you're using something that is already using chemical or using petrochemical, the main aim of you using the shea butter is plant-based. So why would you be introducing something that is chemical in it? And once they do that, they lose all the nutrients. So your fatty acids goes down. Your fatty acids can be between 90% in the shea butter, very good shea butter. You go down. In some cases, you lose all the vitamin A's, which is very good for skin protection, wound healing, and all of those
mhm,
things. And then vitamin E is completely lost in that process. So you see that they tend to add other ingredients to make it back up. But the actual real thing that you actually got for the beautiful plant, you've lost everything. So it's quite important that if you're using shea butter and you want to really enjoy the benefit of it, you use unrefined shea butter, and that's what we've chosen to go for.
yeah, yeah, across the whole range.
Yeah.
Now, another incredible thing about you guys is that you're sourcing that and you're working really closely with a women's cooperative in northern Ghana. Tell us a bit more about that relationship and how that works.
So as I said, I come from the northern part of Ghana, and just give you a bit of context, northern Ghana is one of the poorest areas in the region in Ghana, and most of the men there are involved in
Yeah,
farming, but the women tend to be stay-at-home moms looking after the family. Now, as you know, with farming, it's seasonal, so sometimes, yeah, during the rain season, they can't do much or things like that. And so what some women in that region have done is that they come together and they found out that they can do things with shea butter. And so the nuts falls down during certain times of the year. They go around and they pick it up, and then they come and process and make this wonderful shea butter. And so the way we work with them is they dictate the price that they want for the shea butter, and then we buy it at that price. There's no argument, there's no
yeah,
negotiation. Whatever price that they dictate, that's what we buy it from. And so in so doing, we are able to support these women. They in turn are able to support their families, and they can take their children to school and buy things that maybe their husbands can't afford at certain times of the
yeah,
year. And not only that as well, we also help them in setting up their own businesses as well. So
yeah,
they might come to us with a need that they want something. One of the recent requests that has come across to us is that where they store the shea nuts, the roofs tend to be leaking in the rainy season, so they need some help and support. And that's something that we are looking to work with them to sort it
yeah.
out.
It's amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's amazing. um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the products for a minute, and specifically about the texture. You've been saying a lot that one of the things people tend to complain about with shea butter is they don't like the texture, or they don't, like the greasiness.
Yeah.
Um, your products feel incredible. They've got the most, like, just fantastic kind of whipped quality to them. You don't get the drag, you don't get the greasiness, you don't have that struggle to work with them. How did you achieve that?
Right. So When I came back from
Tell us your
Ghana,
secrets.
yes, well, I'll try. When I came back from Ghana and I wanted to do the shea butter, I wanted to do skincare range with the shea butter. I quickly realized that all my friends were not using the shea butter. They were
Mm,
also using other products. So I was quite curious to find out whether they had similar problems like
yeah,
myself. And so I asked a few of my Ghanaian and Nigerian friends who I knew about shea butter, and I wanted to know, why are you not using it? It's such an incredible product. Of course, I've discovered that it's an incredible product, but I'm now yet to share it with them. So I got the same response. Some of them said it was too greasy. They didn't have the time to sit down and to be massaging it before it melts into their hands.
yeah,
And some were like, they hated the smell. So we had the same problems. So for me, when I decided I was going to do that, I said, okay, if I'm going to do something like this, I need it to be for people to be able to use it quite easily and people to enjoy using it. And so I embarked on that journey of trying to find solutions to these three key problems. In terms of the smell, we realized down the line that it had to do with the way the nuts are processed right from the beginning. If the women don't do the nuts well, you have a problem
mm,
there. So it's about processing the nuts correctly. But in terms of how hard it was and dragging it was, I spent quite a lot of time in my kitchen trying to find out what was the best
yeah,
way of doing this. And I added all sorts of things. I even tried baking. Of course, I tried melting like what most people
yeah,
do. But
yeah,
you realize that as you melt over time, you tend to lose the power of
yeah,
the unrefined shea butter. So I realized that was not the right way. And then I love to bake. I love to bake. So I was sitting there one day and I was thinking, now, if you're baking a normal Victorian sponge cake,
yeah,
you start with butter and sugar. So if this is a butter, why can't I whip it like how you whip
yeah,
butter? So I whipped it and it sort of worked. And then I decided to go online on Google to search, and I realized people were starting to whip the shea butter as well. So I wasn't the only one who had found this
yeah,
wonderful solution, but I had to make mine to the point where you can actually take the butter quite easily and use it and enjoy it. And so spend months in the trying to get the whip to a correct point. I was collecting feedback from people as well. The first customers that I sold to, they were giving me all sorts of feedback. And I think over the years, I've been able to come to a point where I think it's quite nice to use on the skin. You put it on your skin and it actually can melt into your skin. So, and it feels very lush. And that's how I came up with the formulation, to be
yeah,
fair.
yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a simple, such a simple thing, but it's so impactful.
Exactly.
Uh, now,